Alright, hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I honestly just woke up from a very long nap, so I'm kind of out of it, but took a nap with this topic on my mind, so I kind of want to talk about it. So I feel like I'm reiterating things that I've said multiple times. Oh no. Okay, I'm not gonna worry about it. So basically, this is going to be about. Alright, so there was a debate. It's not a Jubilee debate, but it was like conservative Christians versus liberal Christians. And I did not watch the full video. I'm going to be completely honest about that. I didn't watch the full video, but I feel like I've always taken issue with politicalizing Christianity because, in my opinion, it's not Christianity. Like, there's no such thing as like a political party being more or less Christian, I guess. And I guess that's kind of what is proven by there even being a debate between the two. But I also feel like there's no such thing as liberal Christianity. There's no such thing as conservative Christianity. There's just such thing as Christianity, right? Christianity is not political. It's not it's not a political belief, and I feel like when people try to tie their religion to their political belief, I feel like what it does is you're trying to fit religion into politics instead of fitting politics. Well, how do I say that? So fitting politics into your religion or fitting religion into your politics. It's like these are both things that I've seen people argue about. Either it's like, oh, you're not allowed to separation of church and state, separation of church and state. The truth about this idea or concept of separation of church and state is that moral laws have always required the the basis of any law in any governing country is built on people believing in objective morals. You know, if you are going to have a law against something, it should be against something that we know is morally wrong or is harmful or is going to hurt another human being, right? So it's like any country, in order for a country to not be corrupt, to not be overrun by evil things, there has to be objective morality. And I kind of touched on that in my last video, how, this argument that there shouldn't be any type of religion in politics. People don't realize that democracy is built around religion and a religious belief, and religious morals that are objective. Like, you can't have law and order without a law. And to have a law, you have to have an objective moral. So if you move away from objective morals, the laws become less moral. A law that says, well, it's sometimes okay to do this, but in other instances it's not okay. Or it's just like a law that is subjective. This law only applies to you sometimes, and this law only applies sometimes. It's like you can't have order with laws that are not objective. And I feel like the biggest arguments we have around some laws in this country is built around somebody believing there is something being allowed that is morally wrong, objectively wrong. But then, if everyone's morals don't come from the same place, and it's all subjective, right? Objective morals means everyone agrees this is wrong. Subjective morals are, well, some people think this is okay and other people think it's not okay. So it's like you can't come to terms because everyone has different morals and different ideas of what is good and what is wrong. So that is what creates the chaos. I didn't, I guess, really explain it, but it's just like without objective morality behind the law, you don't have order, and you get all the arguments and everything else. So that's one side of it. And then I think when it comes to the idea of being a liberal or being a conservative and using that and tying that to your religion, I honestly feel like your this is why I've said it, I don't align with either political party for a lot of reasons, but one of the biggest reasons is that I just don't think there's such thing as a political party being a political parties are not to me tied to a religion. It's really just, this person supports this objective thing that you either can agree or disagree with, and that's how you decide who you vote for. But most people are voting for things that either align with their morals or against things that they feel like go against their morals. The irony thing, the irony of, I guess, some of this whole debacle between the left and the right is that, you know, I personally feel like there's no such thing as, like, morals. Yes, your morals are so important. Like, you should vote according to your morals. The problem is people have different definitions of what is moral, and that to me is ultimately the problem. People have different perspectives on what's right and wrong, and that's why we can't come into agreement on a lot of these issues. And like I said, people who follow a strict religion have objective morals. So that's why when Andrew Tate was arguing about Islamic countries being so safe, well, they all strictly believe in their religious um moral laws, and the moral laws, their religious laws, are what govern their countries altogether. And so it's just like the reason that they have, you know, less crimes happening and things like that is because they're very strict, but also they're very harsh with punishing people. They have very harsh consequences. Y'all can't go to other countries and do things that you might get away with in America and think you're going to get the same treatment, because some of these countries, you get caught stealing, they cut off your hand. You do something, it's like people try to go to other countries and do certain things, and then think it's not a big deal because they're used to the United States having these, systems that aren't as quick and harsh to punish. But you go to another country, you commit a crime, some of their punishments are no joke. So it's just like this idea that It's like every country is not the same. Every country has different belief systems, different legal systems, but you have to respect the laws regardless of any country that you're in. What you don't want is to be in a corrupt country that's being run by a government that doesn't prioritize the safety of its citizens, that doesn't care about law and order. A government official, I mean, think about countries where people are that are dangerous, like some of the most dangerous countries, some of them. And ironically enough, some of the most dangerous countries to be in are countries that have a Islam are run by Islamic religion. But people don't understand that perspective on it because they're not aware of like some is how extreme some Islamic laws are. And I also think too, I'm not super familiar with Islam, but I remember I've watched a few videos of Muslims who deconverted from Islam to Christianity. And if you or if you convert from Islam to Christianity in an Islamic country, your life is in danger. Their lives are in danger. If you say, I don't want to be a part of that religion anymore, this religion anymore, I have a different perspective, I have a different view. And there's Islamic in certain Islamic countries, they are allowed they are allowed to be murdered and they have to flee. Some people are running away from those countries because they don't have religious freedoms, right? This idea of religious freedoms too, like where do we have this idea that it's all right for people to have the freedom of religion? That's a principle that America was founded on. Your right to practice your religion. um but now, like I said, the other side of that is that when it's a religion that people don't like, oh, now it's we shouldn't be your religion shouldn't be allowed to be, um I don't know. I've heard some really bad takes on it. Anyways, I kind of distracted myself from what I wanted to say. But basically, oh my gosh, I've heard so many stories of the DRC. Is it the RC's Democrat, the Republic of Congo? I know is it DRC or am I making something up? Well, anyways, they are known for beheading Christians, basically. And something I never want to take for granted as a Christian in this country, because we have Christians arguing over like political views, and there's literally people in on the other side of the world who can't even practice their religion without fear of being murdered, whose lives are in danger for holding their beliefs, you know, who aren't allowed to even practice their faith, and we're over here arguing over political views. There's literally Christians on the other side of the world who are being killed, who are being tortured, who are put in prison for being Christians. Don't take your stop taking that for granted, the freedoms you have here for granted, really. Anyways, I wanted to say this. A lot of times people only have a problem with Christians when they're Christians that actually follow the Bible. And I feel like this is the one issue that I would say is I feel like a lukewarm Christian a lukewarm Christian is someone who claims Christianity but doesn't practice it in their actions. And then it's just like uses their half halfway committed Christianity as being what is supposed to be a real Christian. And I honestly think like how someone views the world is often more linked to, you know, as a Christian, I feel like someone's political beliefs as a Christian, I think, are more closely linked to whether they actually believe the Bible or pretend to, whether they're actually following Jesus or are pretending to. I think um real Christianity is not popular. People don't like when people are actually Christians. People find issues when Christians actually believe and practice the Bible. People love Christianity when it's not biblical. You know, when people are trying to change what it says or allow certain sins or allow certain lifestyles or allow certain things and say, God's just okay with you doing whatever. People love that version of Christianity. The problem is that version of Christianity isn't true Christianity. So when you have Christians that actually follow the Bible and what it says, people have a problem. I also think it's often the the problem people have with Christianity as a whole at the root is people don't like the concept of sin. Like according to Christianity, everyone is a sinner. That's not an if, and, or but. That's just the objectively what the Bible says. Now, if you don't believe the Bible, you can reject that. But I would say any Christian who claims they're Christians and believes the Bible and loves Jesus, saying the Bible allows certain things or is okay with certain things, I feel like that's not someone practicing their religion objectively. I also think as Christians, we really should not be arguing over, the political state of the world. You know, as Christians, your greatest and best focus should be spreading the gospel to those with ears to hear. I think a big part of what people misunderstand about the gospel, why do we have so many street preachers, right? Why do we see so many Christians, on the streets or holding up signs or doing this? Because when you truly accept the gospel, why do I talk about my faith so much, right? Your faith should be is ingrained in your entire worldview. Like when you truly accept Jesus into your heart, it's like your number one goal is following following the will of God in your life, but also doing the will of God. And it's just like the focus is Jesus. I think it's hard for people who aren't a part of it to understand. I try my best to explain it to those who are willing, I guess, to hear or listen. But real Christianity requires denying your flesh, right? It's like the if being a Christian and picking up your cross and following Jesus, you know, deny your flesh, pick up your cross and follow me. That's what Jesus basically commanded his disciples. Now, I will say this. The disciples biblically were at a much more it was a much more radical thing to do to leave basically Judaism to follow Christian. When the first Christians became Christians, the disciples, you know, said, "Oh, this is the Son of Man. I'm going to follow him." You know, they went against everything they knew as Jews to follow Christ. You know, they literally changed their entire worldview once they met Jesus and knew Jesus and saw what Jesus did to follow him. They left their entire their jobs, their lifestyle, Some of them left everything just to follow Jesus. And that's the same thing that people are doing today. It's the same thing, the exact same thing. When you truly believe in God, you don't want to stay in your current lifestyle, your current things. You pick up everything to follow God and in pursuit of being more like Jesus. It's like that's the power of God. That's the power of Jesus. So I feel like anytime people see that transformation in someone's lives, oh, this person used to do this and this, but now they're a Christian and they don't do those things anymore. There's been a few people who I guess I've made this argument like, um, you know, that person is not themselves anymore. They're not supposed to be like their old selves. It's like it's almost it's ironic to me that people don't understand when you truly become a Christian, you are supposed to change. Your mindset changes, your focus changes. Like, that's how you're transformed into a new person. People hate when, people who used to practice or participate in certain things say, I don't do that anymore because I'm a Christian, because they want to be justified in doing whatever they're doing, and seeing people leave that old way, their old lives, to follow Jesus and to follow God, it hurts them so much. And I would say it's even worse when it's someone who's a supposedly other also a Christian is not understanding why that person is changing, because that's what God does. He changes people for the better. God doesn't change anyone for worse. He changes them for the better. Um so yeah, that's like a pinnacle, in my opinion, of Christianity, that you come in and start one way and you leave a transformed, whole, brand new person in pursuit of Jesus, because that's how it's always been. It's always been that way according to the Bible. Like, Jesus radically changes your lives. That's the whole point of the gospel. It's for people to find healing, be forgiven of their sins, and be made brand new, a whole, better version of themselves. And some people are still like, they want the old version of people. They don't want to accept the new version, because the new version, and I honestly feel like it's like the people who reject God are the ones who don't like seeing the new versions of people the most, in a sense. It's like, oh, you're no longer like us. And that also ties to, oh, I just remember the other thing. You know, when you're in the world loves you. The world accepts you. When you're still serving the world is going to love you. It's going to accept you. It's going to, put you on a pedestal. The moment someone serves God, oh, we don't love you anymore. Oh, we hate you. Oh, you're a bigot. Oh, you're a Christian. Have y'all seen how some people treat Christians, especially in Hollywood? How people, if a celebrity ever, gets on their platform and says they're a Christian and actually practices Christianity biblically, you know, there's a lot of celebrities that will say they're Christians. Their lifestyles don't show that, you know? It's like, you will know them by their fruits. I think that's really important in the Bible. You will know them by their fruits. You will know who actually serves God and loves God by how their actions in the world. And I also think it's really important to know, it's like the world is not in support of Jesus. You know, the Bible says this consistently throughout the Bible. The world hates Jesus because the world is not the world is not in support of Jesus at the end of the day. And I guess to say the world is really like the sinful desires of the world actively do not like Jesus. And so when you leave the world, when you leave doing things of the world and in the world and start doing things more like God, more like Christ, more biblically, the world recognizes, oh, you're not like us anymore. We don't like you. That's why you see Christians who leave being in the world to follow Jesus get hated on for the changes. Oh, we liked you when you used to do this. We liked you when you used to act like that. We liked you when you used to go out. Oh, now she's a Christian. She thinks she's better than everyone. Like that's things people really say. But the truth is, um, Jesus even tells us, if the world hates you, remember they hated me first. You know, a lot of people have to walk in their faith feeling kind of lonely and alienated from, their worldly friends, especially, if you're surrounded not by a lot of Christians where that person is. But that's why it's like having a community and church group is so important. I have recently started going to a new church group, young adult group, and it's so much better for me because it's like you have to have a community of Christians surrounded you, and that's what the church is built around. These disciples literally established the church for that reason. They said we need to find a place where believers can gather together and be strengthened in their faith by being surrounded by other believers. That was the purpose of the church. To help strengthen other believers' faith in them, faith, and to pray for other people. Um, and strength and help and all those great things. It's just like it's hard. It's hard. It's a hard walk basically, and that's the point of Christianity. That it's like that's the whole point. That's actually the whole point. You're not supposed to um be the same when you become a Christian. You're supposed to change. You're supposed to be transformed. And there's people who literally just don't like that. They don't like when they see people change. They want people to be stuck in their old ways. They want people to act like their old selves. And I don't know. It's almost like it's and I think it's because people in the world recognize when someone is not in it anymore. It's almost like becoming a Christian. And that's the truth is, when you become a Christian, you are choosing Jesus. You're choosing God. It is God versus the world, right? You can either be of God or you can be of the world. And a real true Christian picks God over the world. Lukewarm, you're still trying to serve the world and also trying to serve God. And then people who reject God, they're just serving the world. These are the only three lifestyles that actually kind of exist. It's like you're either for God or against God, and a lukewarm person is splitting that. They're halfway. It's like I'm for God, but I'm also still doing things that are of the world and actively go against God. And then God says, you can't serve two masters. You can't be, I want you to either be hot or cold, either for or against me. And he says, lukewarm means I'm going to spit you out my mouth regardless because you're not hot enough. Um, so yeah, that's really it. I just feel like it's important to recognize the entire premise of Christianity is people being transformed from their old ways to become new people. And being like, that's what Jesus did throughout the Bible, and that's what is still happening when people are Christians. Like, that's what the purpose of Christianity is. And I feel like that's the fruit that makes you know someone is actually changed. The changes and the transformation in people. Someone who was addicted to drugs for 20 years finds Jesus and is now set free and sober. The fruit of them believing in Jesus was them becoming sober. You know, God does not leave people in their sin. He doesn't leave people in destructive lifestyles. He's not going to leave you how he found you. He's going to grab you, take you, rescue you from those things that are destroying you, so that you're going to be made brand new and better and whole and healed. It's healing that the Bible is offering still. People don't realize that because they're so lost in the things of this world. What the world says is good, and what the world says is... Honestly, what does the world even actually call evil? Have y'all realized, like, people in the world don't have the same idea of what is evil as Christians? It's like, and this is where I've always said this, you know, how the Bible says they'll call what is good evil and what is evil good. In my opinion, I feel like abortion for me is the biggest evidence of that. To call mothers murdering their own children in their womb good, when it's the most, in my opinion, obvious evil thing people are doing. Murdering an innocent human being. That to me is evil. It's always evil. There's nothing good about killing an innocent human being. But the world says abortion's okay. That's your right. That is good. It's a good thing. Like, the world does not have the same perspective on things that God does. That's my point. When people reject God, they're not following, they don't have the same morals of God either. And they also will allow things that, in my opinion, are evil to persist. And then call what is good evil. You know? I'm trying to think of an example of something that is obviously good, but the world likes to pretend it's evil. You know, I also think, you know, when it comes to, you know, wait, people, and I'm not gonna argue that people call this evil, but people act like it's outdated. You know, if someone makes a choice to, like, wait till marriage to have sex, some people will look at that as being like, oh, that's so old fashioned. You don't have to do that. That's so restrictive. You should be exploring your sexuality. You should be doing all this. Like, why would you wait till marriage? Like, there's people who mock anything. Like, anything the Bible says is good is mocked by the world. A lot of what the Bible says is good is mocked by the world. These two things are against each other. And that's because, if you really want me to get into it, the Bible says the world is being run by the devil. The world is being run by the devil, demonic principalities. It's like the enemy is not people. The enemy is the devil. As Christians, that's why you still have to love your enemies, because loving your enemies is not loving the devil. It's loving the people who are still following the devil. Like, they're enemies of God solely because they're doing things that go against him, but we still have to love them. and bless those who persecute us. Like when you think about these Christians that are in these Islamic countries and they're told, we'll let you live if you just deny their faith, and they refuse to deny their faith. That's true faith. Are you willing to die for your beliefs? If you're not willing to die for your beliefs, you don't really believe it. These Christians were willing to be killed because they refuse to deny God. And I feel like one of the not craziest, but most beautiful parts of this, I know it's not a beautiful situation. It just makes me realize like how amazing some people's faith are in God, that they can literally be actively persecuted and still refuse to deny their faith in him. And basically they had rounded up all these Christians. And this is a recent story too. I know it's been happening for years. I've heard stories, but they rounded up all these Christians, and they also rounded up I can't remember. It was a guy, he wasn't even a Christian. He just happened to be working with these men. Ugh. And basically he saw how strong the faith the people around him had in God, that they were willing to die for their beliefs. They didn't care. They didn't care. They weren't going to deny their faith. They weren't going to deny their beliefs. And he could have very easily said, "You know what? I'm not one of these guys. I'm not a Christian. I don't have their same beliefs." But he literally said, "I don't know what God they serve, but I believe him too." And then they literally beheaded them. So grotesque, so ugh. But that's it's inspiring to me. The faith that these men had is inspiring to me, because most people would, I mean, it was really a test of their faith. That's what's happening. you know do you if you really believed in God, if you didn't really believe in God, you would reject him to save your life, right? But those people were willing to lay their lives down for their faith. That's inspirational to me as a Christian. That's the type of faith you should have as a Christian. This is also, by the way, why is there so many instances in history where people are killed for believing in Jesus? I want y'all to really look up how many um times have people been murdered for being Christian. We don't see Christians murdering people for not believing in God. Um, in like recent years, I know the Crusades, which I honestly don't know much about the Crusades, y'all. I don't know a lot about them. The Crusades aren't in the Bible, right? I also feel like the Crusades aren't really biblical. So I don't know. The Crusades, in my opinion, is not done by. There's nowhere in the Bible where Jesus told his followers to go around and unalive people who didn't believe in him. That's not in the Bible, at least. In the Old Testament, when there was wars happening and the Jewish people had God on their side, that was happening. But that's not happening in the New Testament after Jesus. So all the Bible tells us to do is go and spread the gospel. Spreading the gospel is not ending people's lives because they don't believe in them. The thing is, Christianity doesn't require you to harm someone for not believing in their faith. It says you tell people the gospel, and they can either accept or reject it, and that's it. The only thing you have to do is just spread it. You know, if someone doesn't want to believe it, they can move on with their lives, right? It's like this is why I don't understand how when people act like Christianity is being forced on them. What people actually mean is typically what they are arguing against is, if Christians, if majority of lawmakers are Christians, right? And they're going to vote in favor of things that align with their Christian morals. What people are often arguing is Christian morals shouldn't rule other people. Shouldn't rule other other people. The problem is they already do. Most of the laws that exist in our country built around Christian morals. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not, lie. A lot of our morals are actually built around the Christian values and principles. And the truth is, the majority is what rules. Like in a democracy, the majority rules. But like I said, if majority of people don't have are not following objective morals, and now they're ruling and in the world, what you're going to see is not more law and order. You're going to see less. You are going to see less law and order the more people move away from objective morality. And objective morality only exists within religion, does not exist outside of religion. And I would say the most objective morals are the ones governed by God. You can't, there is no higher law than the one that God created. And it's like that belief is how we have laws to begin with. People don't realize before that it was just whatever a king. If a king ruled your nation, it was whatever the king said. If a king didn't serve God, they could create the most corrupt, evil societies. But when someone actually serves God, when God put rulers who believed in him on the throne, that's where law and order actually came from. It is rulers who had Christian values that are able to establish the most fair countries, y'all. Before God, it was just whatever the king, whoever was, considered the king of that nation or that country, and their beliefs. If their beliefs were not backed by God, it was just their ego. I mean, that's honestly the story of Pharaoh. The Egyptians versus the Jews, that Bible story of Moses and everything else is literally God versus the world. Anyways, that's all I have to say.